I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am, sitting in my apartment, heart pounding, trying to make sense of everything I just found out. Jess and I had been together for 3 years. She's the kind of girl who always knew how to get what she wanted: smart, beautiful, a bit bitchy, but charming enough that I ignored the red flags. We were supposed to get married in 2 weeks. Everything was supposed to be perfect, or so I thought. Looking back, I started noticing little things: her phone ringing at odd hours, her suddenly brushing off questions about where she was going, and her being unusually defensive when I asked about her exes. Nothing concrete, just enough to make me suspicious. Still, I trusted her, or at least I wanted to. I kept telling myself maybe I was just overthinking it. Then 2 nights ago, I stumbled across her phone while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping, I just needed to grab my charger from her purse. But there it was, a message from someone named Mike, saying, "Can't wait to see you tonight, miss you already." I froze. My stomach sank. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I knew I had to see what was really going on. I didn't want to believe she'd do this right before our wedding, especially with my brother, Jake. They've always had some weird chemistry, but I'd never suspected anything until now. I looked through her texts while she was in the shower, trying not to panic. The words weren't just flirting, they were steamy, full of references to meeting up, sneaking around, plans for more sex. I saw the messages escalate over the last week, getting more explicit, more desperate. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My heart was racing and my mind was screaming. I couldn't believe Jess, who always acted so high and mighty, was actually cheating on me with my own brother. It was like a sick punchline I'd never seen coming. I sat there, clutching her phone, trying to process everything. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she hide something so huge from me? Just days before I was supposed to say "I do," she was screwing around behind my back, and not just with anyone, my brother. I did wake her up that night. I just stayed in the dark, staring at her sleeping face, feeling this mix of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. The betrayal runs so deep I can't even find the words for it. I felt like I was stranded in a nightmare, knowing that my whole life I'd been fooling myself into thinking she was the one. Turns out she's just a manipulative, lying bitch. I don't know what's more painful, the fact that she cheated, or that I was too blind to see it coming. This was supposed to be my fairy tale, and now I'm left with ashes. I knew I had to confront her, but honestly, I didn't even know how. I just sat there, waiting for the right moment, feeling the kind of heartbreak that makes your chest ache like someone squeezing your lungs. I kept asking myself, how did I not see this coming? How did I not notice the way she was acting distant, or the way she'd brush off my questions? All those signs, now painfully obvious. And what kills me is that she lied through her teeth about everything. She's the queen of making herself look innocent, even when she's caught dead to rights. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do next. Part of me wants to scream at her and tell her she's a lying bitch. Part of me feels like just walking away and never looking back. But I know one thing: my trust is shattered, and I don't think I can fix this. Not with her, not now. I feel so stupid for believing in us, for thinking this could be forever. The worst part: knowing she did this with my own brother, someone I trusted and cared about deeply. It's like my life got turned upside down in a matter of hours. I just don't know how I'm supposed to pick up the pieces now. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and honestly, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. I kept replaying everything in my head, every sign I missed, every moment I ignored. Jess was still asleep when I finally got up early the next morning. I didn't wake her. I just needed some space to breathe and think. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it when I was this angry. I needed a plan, a way to get some clarity before I tore into her. The next few hours were a blur. I went out for a walk, trying to clear my mind. I kept thinking about Jake, how he could do this, how he could betray me like that. My brother, my own flesh and blood, cheating with my wife. It felt like some sick joke I was part of. I kept asking myself, was it just sex, or was there more to it? I had no idea. All I knew was that I couldn't stay silent, not anymore. I decided I had to get proof, something concrete I could confront her with. I knew Jess was the kind of girl who'd lie her way out of anything, so I had to be smart. I went through her phone again, this time copying the messages and pictures she'd sent to Mike. I also reached out to an old friend who was good at hacking into phones because I needed to make sure I wasn't just imagining things or that this was some kind of misunderstanding. But deep down, I already knew the truth. That gut feeling I'd been ignoring was now screaming at me. When I got back to the apartment, Jess was still in bed, pretending to be innocent. That's her style, act like she's the victim, like I'm the crazy one for suspecting anything. I sat down on the bed, took a deep breath, and finally looked her in the eyes. Jess, I found your messages, I said quietly but firmly. Her face froze for a second, then she started her usual bullshit, denials, excuses, acting like I was overreacting. She started crying, playing the victim, saying I was paranoid and that Mike was just a friend she was talking to about work stuff. She even had the nerve to say she was under so much stress planning the wedding that she needed someone to talk to. Yeah, right. I told her I wasn't stupid, that I had seen enough. She kept lying, calling me jealous, insecure, accusing me of trying to ruin everything because I didn't trust her. But I knew better. I knew she was hiding something, and I'd caught her dead to rights. The anger boiling inside me was something I'd never felt before. It wasn't just about the cheating, it was about the betrayal, about her lying through her teeth to my face while I was stupid enough to believe in her. I looked at her and said, "You've been cheating on me with my brother. How could you do that? How could you lie to me for so long?" Her face twisted and she spat back, "It's not what it looks like. You don't understand, it meant nothing. It was just sex. I never loved him. I was just upset about the wedding and he was there. It's not a big deal." But I knew better. Nothing about that was just sex. It was betrayal on a level I never thought I'd see. I felt sick, like I was drowning. How do you rebuild trust after something like this? How do you look at someone you loved and see them as anything but a liar? She kept insisting she was sorry, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was under pressure, that she was stressed, that it was just sex, nothing more. She begged me to forgive her, said she loved me, that she'd never hurt me if I just gave her another chance. But I did. Know what to say. My brain was spinning, my heart shattered. I told her I needed space, told her I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. I told her I needed to think about what was best for me, and honestly, I was already halfway to a decision. That moment, I felt everything I'd ever loved about her slipping away. I had no idea how I was going to face her, how I was going to live knowing that she'd lied for so long, that she'd cheated with my brother. How do you forgive something like that? How do you even begin to trust again? I knew I couldn't stay in that apartment. I packed a bag, and before I left, I looked at her one last time and just said, "Don't contact me. I need time to figure out what's real and what's not." And then I walked out, leaving behind the girl I thought I knew, feeling more broken than ever. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I stayed with a friend for a while, just trying to process everything. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her lies, her tears, her stupid explanations. Honestly, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I kept asking myself how I could have missed all the signs, how someone I trusted could do something so cruel. It was like my entire world had crumbled overnight. I kept going over the texts, the moments I ignored, the times I convinced myself she was just stressed or tired. Now I knew she was hiding something huge. The betrayal was so raw, so fresh, I didn't even want to think about her. I wanted to forget her face, her voice, everything about her. But I knew that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. I kept thinking about Jake, my own brother. How could he do this to me, to my family? I never saw it coming. I used to think they had some kind of weird bond, but I never suspected it was just a cover for their secret affair. It felt so disgusting, so wrong. The worst part, knowing I'd be seeing them at the wedding, knowing I'd have to face them both. The thought made my stomach churn. I talked to a few friends trying to get some perspective, but honestly, most of them just told me I was better off without her. I knew that deep down, but it still hurt like hell. I didn't want to just walk away. No, I wanted some kind of justice. I started scheming. I needed to find out if there was more to this affair. I needed to see if they were still in contact, if she was still lying to me. I couldn't let her get away with it, not without paying some price. I reached out to an old acquaintance who was good with phones, and I paid him to hack into Jess's social media and messages again. I needed proof, something undeniable. What I found made me want to scream. She hadn't stopped messaging Mike. In fact, their conversations had gotten more intense, more desperate. She was still sneaking around, still lying to my face. I felt like I was losing my mind. How could the woman I loved, the woman I was about to marry, be capable of this kind of deception? It's like she had a whole double life I never knew about. The worst part was how she'd lie when I confronted her. I told her I knew everything, that I'd seen the messages. She still denied everything, called me paranoid, said I was crazy for making such accusations. She went on about how she was stressed, how she didn't mean for it to happen, how it was just sex, just a mistake. She even called me insecure, like I was the problem. I felt so angry and broken I didn't even want to argue anymore. I just kept quiet, staring at her, wondering how she could be so callous, so cold. I realized something then. She didn't care about me, she only cared about herself. That's what hurts the most. If she really loved me, she wouldn't have done this. Not with my brother, not in the way she did. I felt betrayed on every level, the trust, the love, the family. It was all vapor now. I decided I had to do something drastic. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine, not after finding out she'd been lying to my face all along. I knew I had to face her again, to lay everything out on the table and get some clarity. But honestly, I wasn't sure if I was ready for that. The pain was so raw, so overwhelming, I didn't even know how to start. All I knew was that I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I had to decide whether I was going to fight for a relationship that was already broken or walk away from it entirely. The confrontation I dreaded finally happened a few days later. I told myself I had to do it face to face, no more hiding behind screens or sneaking around. I needed to hear her lie to my face, see her reactions, test if she still thought she could manipulate her way out of this mess. I told her I was coming over, and when I arrived, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Jess looked like she hadn't slept, her eyes were red, her makeup was smudged, and she acted like she hadn't a care in the world. That's what infuriated me most, her acting like she was entitled to lie and cheat and still be the victim. I sat down and laid it all out, proof of her messages, the hacked conversations, everything I'd uncovered. Her reaction. She sneered, rolled her eyes, and started with the usual bullshit. "You're overreacting," she said. "It's not what you think, Mike's just a friend. It was a mistake, but it meant nothing. I swear I never loved him. I was just stressed about the wedding and I needed someone to talk to." She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, expecting me to believe her, but I didn't. I was already past the point of believing her lies. I told her I knew about the affair, that I knew she'd been lying to me for months. Her face twisted into something ugly. She spat out, "Oh, so you're just gonna accuse me of cheating and then walk away? Typical. You're so insecure, you're the one who can't handle a little fun. Maybe you're just jealous because I was getting bored with you." That's when I lost it. How dense could she be? I looked at her and said, "You're not just a cheat, Jess. You're a manipulative bitch who lied to everyone, including herself, just to get what she wanted. You think I'm stupid? I saw everything. You're done." She started crying, but it wasn't because she was sorry. It was because she knew she'd been caught. She kept insisting she loved me, that she never wanted to hurt me, that it was just sex, just a dumb mistake. I told her I didn't believe her anymore, that her entire act was just that, an act. I told her I was done, that I didn't want to hear any more lies. I told her I'd be leaving and she better not contact me again. She begged, of course, crying and pleading, claiming she'd change, saying she loved me and that I was the only one she ever wanted. But I wasn't buying it. The thing is, I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief because I finally knew the truth, and it was uglier than I'd imagined. Despair because part of me still loved her, still wanted to believe she'd change, that maybe this was all some huge mistake. But deep down, I knew better. Trust was gone, and I'd never be able to look at her the same way again. I told her I was leaving for good, and I didn't want any contact unless it was to tell me she was getting help or that she was ending things with Mike. She yelled, she called me a psycho, said I was overreacting, but I just grabbed my stuff and walked out. I felt so hollow leaving that apartment, like I'd just lost a part of myself. I knew I'd have to face the fallout, our friends, my family, especially Jake. How do you even process something like this? How do you forgive a betrayal that cuts so deep? I still don't have a clear answer. All I knew was that I had to get away from her and that I couldn't pretend anymore. I had to rebuild my life from scratch, knowing I'd been lied to, betrayed by the woman I thought I'd spend forever with, and betrayed by my own brother. The pain was enormous, but part of me felt like I was finally waking up from a nightmare I'd been stuck in for too long. In the days that followed, I kept asking myself what I did wrong, even though I knew deep down there was nothing I could have done differently. Jess was the one who lied, cheated, and manipulated. Still, guilt creeps in. I kept replaying every moment, every word, trying to find some reason, some sign I missed that could explain why she did this. But there was nothing. She was just a bitchy girl who played with my feelings and then threw me away like trash. I felt completely lost, like I'd been sucker punched in the gut and left to bleed out. I started telling a few close friends what happened, people I trusted, people who knew Jess, and their reactions weren't pretty. They couldn't believe she'd do this, not just to me but to her own family. My best friend, Mark, said I was lucky to find out now rather than later, that I dodged a bullet, but hearing that didn't make it hurt any less. It just made me wonder how many other lies I'd been told, how many more secrets she was hiding. I also reached out to my family, told them the truth. The disappointment they felt was almost worse than my own heartbreak. They knew Jess was a bitchy girl, but nobody thought she'd do something so cruel. I knew I had to get my head straight. I couldn't keep blaming myself or drowning in despair. So I started focusing on me for once. I went to the gym, threw myself into work, anything to keep my mind busy. But no matter how much I tried to distract myself, the pain kept creeping back. Every time I saw a picture of us together, I felt sick. Every moment of happiness I thought we shared now felt like a lie. She was never the girl I thought she was. She was just a wolf in sheep's clothing, pretending to be something she was. I felt so stupid for trusting her, for believing she loved me when all she cared about was her own selfish needs. One thing I did learn from this hellish experience: I was not going to let her destroy me completely. I promised myself I'd rebuild. I'd focus on my own happiness, on healing my shattered trust. I knew I couldn't stay in that apartment, not with all the memories of her and the betrayal still hanging in the air. So I moved out, got my own place, and started over. It wasn't easy, nothing about this was. But I knew I had to do it if I ever wanted to feel normal again. I also realized something else, something I probably should have seen from the start. Jess was a manipulative, selfish girl who only cared about herself. She lied, cheated, and played the victim so well that I almost bought it, but now I see her for what she really is. I've learned that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair, not with her at least. And I've also learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. This experience has made me more cautious, more guarded, but it's also made me realize I deserve better. Someone who's honest, someone who values me for who I am, not a girl who thinks she can lie her way through life. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again, or if I'll ever be able to look at my brother the same way. But I do know this: I'll never let someone betray me like that again. I'll keep moving forward piece by piece and hope that someday I'll find someone who truly cares, someone who wouldn't cheat, wouldn't lie, and wouldn't destroy everything we built. That's the lesson I'm taking away from this mess. And honestly, I'd advise anyone out there who's going through something similar: trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs. And if someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Because once trust is gone, it's almost impossible to get back. Looking back now, I realize this whole nightmare has changed me more than I ever expected. I used to think I was a confident guy, someone who could handle anything life threw at him. But losing Jess, discovering her lies, and feeling the deep betrayal by my own brother shook me to my core. It's like I was living in a bubble of naivete, and that bubble burst in the worst way possible. I've had to confront the ugly truths about her: her manipulative side, her selfishness, her complete disregard for my feelings, and I've had to do it alone. One thing I've come to understand is that betrayal, especially on this level, leaves scars. But scars aren't just about pain, they're about lessons. I've learned to trust myself more, to listen to that little voice that says something's wrong, to recognize the signs of manipulation and dishonesty before they can destroy you. I've also learned that some people are just not worth your time, no matter how much you love them or how much you want things to work out. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process everything. It's not about forgetting what happened, but about accepting it, learning from it, and moving forward. I don't hold on to anger anymore, mostly because I know that harboring it will only keep me stuck. Instead, I channel it into building a better future for myself. I'm focusing on my career, reconnecting with old friends, and trying to rebuild my confidence. It's not easy, and some days I still feel the sting of her betrayal, but I know I'm stronger than I was before. As for my brother, Jake, that's a different story. Trust is broken and it might take years to repair. I don't know if that's even possible anymore. Right now, I've decided to give myself space from him. I'm not ready to forgive or forget, and I don't think I will be anytime soon. Maybe someday, if he truly realizes what he's done and makes amends, we can salvage something. But for now, I need to focus on myself. The most important thing I want to say to anyone reading this is, don't ignore the signs. Don't let yourself be blinded by love or hope when someone shows you they're capable of lying, cheating, or manipulating. Protect yourself, because once trust is broken, rebuilding it is a monumental task, sometimes impossible. And if you find yourself in a similar situation, remember, you're not alone. It hurts, it's messy, and it's unfair, but you will survive. Better days are ahead, even if right now it feels like the world is falling apart. I can finally say I'm starting to piece myself back together. It's a slow process, but I'm getting there. I've learned that I deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty, things Jess and Jake clearly couldn't give me. And I'll never settle for less again. Not because I want revenge or because I enjoy pain, but because I know my worth. I'll keep moving forward, broken but hopeful, trusting that one day I'll find someone who truly values me for who I am. That's the real lesson I've learned from all this. Sometimes, the hardest lessons are the ones that teach us to love ourselves more.